Good morning, dear friends. This is Amit Bhattacharya welcoming you to another session. We are actually reading the poems of Philip Larkin. As we all know that the English syllabus of semester 2 of the University of Gurbango has selected 5 poems of Philip Larkin for your study. To recap, we have already read together Larkin's poems Once, The Explosion, The Whitsun Weddings, and At Grass. In fact, we have also started reading together Larkin's poem Charge Going, that was first published in Less Deceived. We have completed the first 3 stanzas of the poem. If you remember, I have pointed out how Charge Going starts with a church visit, not by a devout believer, but by a kind of an agnostic. Now, when he enters the church, he has already ascertained the absence of others, absence of other persons, and absence of any ceremony. It appears that he doesn't know and he doesn't care. To whom this is only another suburban church that he visits, seemingly at random. But as we go along, we see that he does not appear to be a total novice or uninitiated. He knows the church for what it is. He knows the church rituals, and so on and so forth. And the wonder, the feeling of wonder that he feels after leaving the church in a kind of an unsatisfactory manner is that he doesn't understand why he has visited this church, why he visits other churches as well. So see, slowly but surely, the moving is towards a speculative, abstract level from a sensory concrete level. He started by describing the church in minute details. The building, the roof, the lectern, the font, and so on and so forth. Yes, he wonders what will happen to such churches when religion has already fallen out of use. Why does he think so? He has got specific reasons for thinking so. Number one, this is a post-Second World War poem. Historically, this fact means that, number one, there was a lack of belief, a kind of a disillusionment, that religion could not prevent this organized butchery of boys. Religion proved inadequate. And we were moving towards a kind of a post-Christian era, as exemplified by the fact that there were dwindling number of churchgoers, which is one of the possible meanings of the title, enigmatic title, church going. Churches going out of use, for that matter. So he wonders what will happen to the churches once belief in religion has become a back number, has become out of fashion. At this juncture in the poem, we will start today's reading. Shubhasri.
Yes, sir. Or after dark will dubious women come to make their children touch a particular stone, pick simples for a cancer, or on some advised night see walking a dead one?
Wait.
Pa-
You see, the end of the third stanza was about the onset of superstition. When the real meaning of any organized religion is lost, ignored, neglected, or forgotten, what remains is superstition, a belief in miracles, a belief in magic. Surprise, surprise, you know, this was also the first phase of the spread of a religion. If you remember, because we are students of literature, English literature for that matter, we may remember that the first kind of plays to be enacted in English and by English men were basically mystery plays and miracle plays. So an element of magic was there. So while speculating, while wondering about what the possible future use of these abandoned or derelict churches will be, when he has already pointed out that some of them may be turned into museums and others may be simply abandoned or turned into burns. Now he thinks about another possible use. Will churches be visited by dubious women? Dubious to their calling, dubious to their moral standards, and so on and so forth. For picking simples for cancer, or letting their children touch a particular stone with presumably magical fates. Or further still, will such activities be carried on for any length of time? Because like religion, superstition also has, to borrow something, a term from the world of business, a particular shelf value, a shelf life. So after religion has already fallen into disuse, superstition will also follow suit. So the speaker, the Larkin persona speculates What will happen when even disbelief is gone? Okay, go on.
Power of some sort or other will go on in games, in riddles, seemingly at random, but superstition, like belief, must die. And what remains when disbelief has gone? Grass.
Wait, wait. So, you see, after the end of religion and religious belief, there will occur a period of superstition. Some kind of power will go on in riddles and games, seemingly at random. But what happens or what will happen after that era of disbelief is gone? What will remain of these churches? Because churches for this Larkin persona embodies the spirit of religion. Okay. So what will remain? Larkin is cataloging, the persona is cataloging, the speaker is cataloging those things. What will remain? Go on.
Grass, weedy pavement, brambles, buttress, sky.
Wait. So what will remain? Grass will be there because the concomitant factor of these buildings going out of use will be their neglect. Just as at the beginning of the poem, he was talking about the newly cleaned or restored roof of this church. Here he looks forward in time to think that one day, with the passage of time, this church will become a dilapidated building, a ruin. So what will remain? Weedy pavements, grass, buttress in the sky. So maybe the building will crumble with age, the roof will go, only the buttresses will remain, and one will be able to look at the sky through the broken rafters. So the picture that he is speculatively drawing for our benefit, or for that matter, for his own benefit, is that of ruin and degeneration. A la Shakespeare in his sonnets. When I have seen by time's fell hands defaced the rich proud cost of outworn buried age, when lofty towers I see down raised, and brass eternal slave to mortal rage. I'm quoting from sonnet number 64 by Shakespeare. Okay, go on.
A shape less recognizable each week, a purpose more obscure. I wonder who will be the last, the
No.
very last.
Let's stop here. With the passage of further time, what will happen? Slowly but surely, nature will take back what man had gained from her. And what will happen? Slowly by week by week, the edifice, the church building, will become less and less recognizable. And the purpose for its being, its raison d'etre, will also become more and more blurred. So from this speculation about the possible use or uselessness of the church building at a future time, the speculative Larkin persona graduates to a thinking, a speculation about the possible visitors to this church building. Who will he or she be? Who will they be? He doesn't know. He doesn't know. But like Wordsworth's speaker in Solitary Reaper, he is not averse to guessing. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow of some old, unhappy, far-off things or battles long ago. As in Solitary Reaper, the speaker was speculating the subject, the possible subject matter for the Reaper Girl's song and searching it in the past. Here, because the trigger for this speculation is not the song of someone, but the ruined building that he visualizes, obviously he will talk about the future. Let's go on.
I wonder who will be the last, the very last, to see this place for what it was. One of the crew, the tap and jot, and know what root lofts were.
So any archaeologist. So the last possible visitor may be an archaeologist. One of the crew who could measure and record archaeological details about the structure, about the building, architecturally sound, and aware of the real purpose for the building. The second possible type of visitor is now described. Go on.
One of the crew, the tap and jot, and know what root lofts were. Some ruined beaver, randy for antique, or Christian addict.
Wait. So I have already talked about the possible last visitor as being an archaeologist. Now, the second possibility that comes to the Larkin persona's mind is that of an antique lover who is excited and desirous of collecting antiques. Okay? Something from the brass and stuff that the Larkin persona had seen or observed at the holy end of the church, maybe. Or the parchment plate and picks that he might have encased and preserved. Now he talks about the third kind of a possible visitor, or some Christmas addict. Go on.
counting on a weave of gown and bands and organ pipes and mar? Or will he be my representative?
Wait. So it may be a Christmas freak, a lover of ceremonies, pomp and splendor and all that, who may be partial to the gown and bands, the organ pipe and mar, all associated with the observance of the Christmas, celebration of Christmas. The fourth possible type is now described. Go on.
Or will he be my representative?
Go on.
Bored, ununiformed, knowing the goal.
Uninformed.
Oh, sorry. Uninformed, knowing the ghostly silt dispersed, yet tending to this cross of ground through suburbs scrub, because it held unsplit so long, and equably what since is found only in separation, marriage, and birth, and death, and thoughts of this for what was built, this special shell, for though
Wait. So the fourth kind of person who may visit the church for the last time for what it really was, may be a representative of the poet in future. I am reminded of a poem by Rabindranath Tagore that he had dedicated to people say 100 years after his time. So, a representative, just as bored and as uninformed that is the speaker, may be a kind of a future incarnation of the Larkin persona. It may be, or he may be in this context. He will be as bored, as uninformed, but still he may gravitate towards this church because he may have heard somewhere that this was a place that was fit to register births, marriages, deaths, and all such important events in the life of an individual or a community. Now, here there is a physical hint. In fact, two. One is towards the suburban scrub, another is towards the cross. English churches were usually built in the form of a cross, structurally speaking. Okay, so what happens? What may happen in future? That a Larkin persona thinks that someone like him may visit this church, or her for that matter, because the sex of the speaker is not mentioned and not important by any stretch of the imagination in this context. So, he may gravitate towards this church all the same. Okay, go on. Go on.
For though I have no idea what this accounted frosty burn is worth, it pleases me to stand in silence here.
Wait. So now the speaker tries to rationalize. Just as at the beginning of the poem, he was not sure about why he did visit or wanted to visit a church. Still now he is not sure. He doesn't understand the worth. Rationally at least, he doesn't understand, realize the worth of this frosty burn. Acute, frosty burn. There are accoutrements, the peaks, the plate, the parchment, the lectern, the lectionary, and all that. Even the brown flowers. Now, he doesn't know. He doesn't know the real significance of this place. But intuitively, for a reason that he cannot really rationalize, he cannot point out to himself or to others, he still finds it pleasing to stand or to come to a church. Okay, go on.
A serious house on serious earth it is. In
Now,
whose
at least, there is this peculiar kind of an epiphanic moment. Ultimately, this is the key sentence of the rest of the poem. A serious house on serious earth it is. This church is a serious house on serious ground. So there is something serious, something profound, something significant behind the erection of this church, and also this ground, this sanctified church ground. Even though the Larkin persona does not use this word sanctified, there is this hint in the air. Because he uses this not in any ceremonial sense, but on a symbolic plane. Okay, serious house on serious earth it is. Go on.
in whose blend air
No,
all
read that
our
line again. Read that line again. A serious house.
a serious house on serious earth it is.
Yes. So is important in this case, because now Larkin is again turning his gaze, both physical gaze and intellectual attention, to the present church that he has just visited. And that's why the tense is not future but present. Okay, go on.
In whose blend air all our compulsions meet and
All our
recognize.
compulsions meet. All our compulsions meet. Now, this is very significant. The compelling events of a human's life are all associated with the church. Go on.
Are recognized and robbed as
Room.
destinies.
robed as destinies.
Oh, sorry.
So in a way, what a man is and what a man becomes is all recorded and solemnized over here in the charts. Go on.
And that much never can be obsolete.
Yes,
Since
and
some
that can never be obsolete. Why? Because man will always have a spiritual need. Even when the ceremonies of organized religion are a thing or things of the past, the spiritual need for seriousness, for contemplation, for stability and meaning will always be there. And that's why this need will not be obsolete. Go on.
since someone will forever be surprising,
Yes, go on.
a hunger in himself to be more serious and gravitating with it to this ground, which
Go on.
he once had was proper to grow wise in.
Stop.
I-
Stop. Read it again.
Since someone will forever be surprising, a hunger in himself to be more serious
Stop.
and
Stop. You see, somebody will always be surprising a hunger in him to be serious. Now, here the stylistic foregrounding that Larkin resorts to is very, very subtle. By using the word surprising, here it is used as a verb. Someone will always be surprising a hunger in him for seriousness. So it means he or she will discover this hunger in himself or herself to be serious and be surprised by that discovery. A more solemn, a more serious, bigger urge to connect with the kind of a macrocosmic all will always be there. That will lead to a speculation about spiritual matters. And why should that Larkin persona or the representative of that Larkin persona be interested in the church? Because he or she will remember that this church building, which is in fact the example, the instantiation of all such religious buildings, was built to grow wise in, to cultivate wisdom, to cultivate understanding. And that is the epiphanic moment. This realization is there. Gravitating towards this place. Go on.
and gravitating with it to this ground,
Yes.
which he once had was proper to grow wise in, if
Go on.
only that so many dead lie round.
Yes. So the shell, the Fausti burn, ultimately gains in significance, becomes significant as a serious house on serious earth. Why? If not for anything else, at least for the fact that so many dead lie buried herein. So the ultimate realization is something that makes this poem a kind of a more sophisticated and updated version of graveyard meditations, a kind of an updated elegy written in a country churchyard. But I would like to point out in fine that any kind of elegy, along with its element of mourning, always possesses some kind of positive thought. If there is resignation, there is also acceptance. And also the realization that ultimately the show must go on. So with this, we come to the end of our reading of the poem, Charge Going. With this, I will also come to the textual analysis of the poems of Philip Larkin. You see, as I was telling you in my last lecture, that R.N. Parkinson points out that this poem, despite the background of isolation and boredom and meaninglessness that the modern man was facing, affords a message of hope and heritage. Hope for man's ultimate realization of his place in this world and the significance of this created universe. And also a heritage, a religious heritage, a spiritual heritage that Christianity, despite all its faults and frailties, has upheld down the centuries. This heritage is a Christian heritage. This heritage is also an English heritage. And the hope that springs eternal in the bosom of the Larkin persona is that this heritage will ultimately, despite the temporary setback of the Second World War, reassert itself and go on undiminished. So I now throw this session open for any question or comment. But make the questions relevant, please. Don't just repeat what I have already discussed. Any question?
Sir? Yes, sir. The ceremonies of most important events in man's life, such as birth, marriage, death, are all conducted in church, which science and technology cannot solve the needs, spiritual needs, kind of. So, on the basis of this thing, can we say that church is the symbol of our ultimate meaning of life, a quest?
First thing you have to understand that he is not talking about ceremonies. He is talking about the events. And these events births, marriages, deaths. These are events in the life not only of an individual but also of a community. This is number one. Number two, so far as science and technology may be concerned, Larkin does not talk about them in this poem. He does it in the case of, say, the Whitsun weddings. But what he ultimately makes us understand, or tries to make us understand, is that even though organized religion may be inadequate in fulfilling all our needs, at least for the time being, ultimately a greater significance of life and in life is pointed out by the presence of such edifices as the church. Because they are the witness. They have witnessed the birth, the coming together, or the death of many things. I'm reminded of a very famous poem, a very famous song by Lata Mangeshkar. Most probably it was written, the words were written, the lyric was by Shalil Chaudhuri. হিমালয় যেন মৌন ঋষির মতো মগ্ন ধ্যানে, কত সূর্যের অস্ত উদয়, কত রাজ্যের সৃষ্টি প্রলয়, দেখে দেখে আজ তাই তন্দ্রাবিহীন, আমাদের স্বপ্নের সেই সব দিন দেখবে 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 বলে জেগে আছে হিমালয়. Just as the Himalayas, the mountain, has witnessed the birth and death, the rise and fall of days, of men, and of dynasties, they are important. Because they will give you the anchor, the stability, and thereby give you the spiritual mooring. Any other question? Okay, if there are no other questions,
No, sir.
then Shamim will end this meeting, maybe. And from tomorrow, we will discuss the topics.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, pleasure was mine.
Okay, sir. ভালো থাকবেন.
কাটতে হবে।